And welcome to Habs Unfiltered, episode 338. I'm your host, Blaine Pudfang, and I'm joined by my co host, Matt Smith.
Good evening.
We are coming to you recording live immediately after the Florida Panthers swept the season series with the Montreal Canadiens. Good times.
It was like anytime they played this season, and like just to jump right into this, like head first.
Well, somebody's
Anytime,
got to.
yeah,
Somebody not named Gudis, that is.
anytime Florida played Montreal this season, it just seems like they forget how to play. Like, yes,
Yeah.
we had that high scoring game in the last game down in Florida, and it was the sloppiest game I've probably ever watched, and that's on both sides. Florida looked like shit, as did Montreal, but it just seems that when Montreal plays Florida, at least this season, they only played them 4 games and they let up 27 goals.
Yeah, it looks like a wide open beer league game.
Yeah, but like even in tonight's game, another lackluster
Yeah.
performance. Um, and the thing that frustrated me is it's not that Florida's really known for their defensive play.
No, no, but their forecheck seems to be a lot more effective against the Canadians for some odd reason
It
that I
is.
cannot explain.
It is, but you put up against a team that I said that's not the best defensively. You only put up 20 shots,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of the opportunities they had were towards the end of the game in the last minute or 2 minutes when he had a 6-on-4, and it's like, okay, let's start actually passing the puck now. Let's actually start trying. And I'm happy that I'm happy that they scored the goal late. End of the season, you want to be able to do these kind of scenarios in a real game and have guys out there doing a 6-on-4 scenario, that kind of stuff. It's beneficial moving forward for the team. But I'm looking, and you know out of necessity tonight, based on the fact that a guy like Savard didn't play, right? Chris Weidman came in the lineup tonight and played 9 minutes and 38 seconds, while Matheson played 29 minutes and 16 seconds.
Again, that has everything to do with Savard just missing out on the game. He took warm-ups,
Yeah,
but then left.
yeah. And it's in it, like the numbers, like, I know plus minus means very little to many people, but the Suzuki line was garbage tonight, right?
Well, Suzuki even had a giveaway that he
Right.
normally
And that
doesn't
was
do.
but you know what? Very uncharacteristic. I'm gonna give
Yeah,
it to him.
exactly.
It's not something that we're used to seeing from him. And he knew right away he fucked up.
But that's a good example of
Right.
just how messed up they have been playing
Yeah.
against the Panthers. It's so bad that even Suzuki had a giveaway.
Yeah. But like, combined tonight, I know that line kind of flip flopped a little bit tonight, but Harvey Pinard -3. Hoffman was a -4. Suzuki was a -3. Um, and then other than that, everybody was other than Drouin, who was a -2, and Matheson was a -3. Other than that, everybody else was a positive. So you can tell, like, who was off tonight.
Well, I mean, the whole game was essentially just a bunch of sloppy play, sloppy coverage. The timing for the Canadians was off. The passes, the timing on the passes, the timing on the back checks. Essentially, they were either a little too quick or a little too slow.
Yeah.
But it was never everybody on the same page.
Yeah.
Like if one
There
guy's
was there
slow,
was no flow. There was no
no,
consistency.
none,
Nothing.
none. And for a game that they were coming in to play spoiler, it just kind of fell flat.
Yeah.
Now, I got to give credit to the Panthers because they came out and they really, you can tell they wanted that game.
Yeah.
They desperately needed that game.
Well, like, look at their performance against the Leafs the other night. They were down in the game. They come back late. They tie it with about a minute or so to go, and then they get that extra point that they need so desperately in overtime. And tonight, you're playing a team much lower in the standings. and again, it showed, and I'm really hoping that it's not going to be the same way next season, because this is insane. But it shows when Savard's out of the lineup, or they lose, say, more of a veteran defenseman or a guy that can eat up minutes in the lineup, and then we've seen how things have went to shit losing Kirby Doc. It's back to, we've got one line out here that's going to really drive the offense, and then maybe the other lines are going to get a little bit of an opportunity. We saw it tonight, and you know what? I'm going to give a shout out to Farrell. Really, it was a nothing play, but they all count in the end of the day. You could tell how excited he was. You could tell how excited his line mates were. And congrats to him. First shift with the Canadians at home, first shot, first goal. And his family was in attendance too. So it makes it even better.
Now, may as well go into the good news in that game, and
Yeah,
that's one of the big pieces right there. Uh, Part of that goal, he had played only about a minute and a little bit going into before scoring, and it turns out, according to NHL stats, that he is the first player since 1918 to score a goal that fast. Odie
perfect.
Cleghorn, 1 minute into his debut with the Canadians on home ice, scored a goal, and he's the only one faster than Sean Farrell
I'll take it.
to do so on home ice in his debut.
It's, you know what, it's good. It's good for his confidence. It's good for the team.
Yeah.
And yes, they lost this game, and yes, there's so many negatives we can take out of this game, but that is a positive that we can take out.
And that's the thing. Like he came down the wing. They came in with speed, with in that line. It's Evans and Gallagher came down 3-on-2 with speed, and Farrell just threw the puck at the net and it went in.
Yeah.
So he simplified his game somewhat, and in his first game against Philly, he played about just over 13 minutes. In this game, just shy of 15 minutes, and he was effective in all three zones.
Yeah, they're giving
That's
him
good
opportunity.
news.
They're giving him opportunity, and it's good.
But he's earning it.
It's not just let's bury him, and he's on the team now, right? He's got a roster
Yeah,
spot right now. Like, it's not that. So I'm happy.
they're
I'm
not just
happy.
handing him. They're
That's
not
right.
just handing him the ice time either.
Right, but a little bit of power play time. We saw him a little
Yep.
bit up with the top line a little bit. He's getting those opportunities, and I can see him playing around that 14 to 16 minutes for the rest of the season with the injuries that they have. I wouldn't be
Yeah.
surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if we even maybe saw him at center a little bit, just to see, like, he is a center, right? So maybe see him play a little bit of center, but we'll see how it goes.
Well, now that makes me wonder who's going to be the next player to go down with an injury.
Oh, Jesus.
Like,
Who knows? Who knows at this point? Like, there's only a handful of games left. They're already limping into the off season. You don't want to
literally.
see, you don't want to see anybody at this point get hurt or anything like that, of course.
No.
Um, at this point, I just, it's as hard as it is to say, I just want the season to get over. These guys have been through so much this year, and I said we can pull positives out of the season, we can pull stuff out of this game, but everything's overshadowed by the what ifs. Like, what if Cole Caulfield would have stayed healthy? Would he have got the 40 goals? What if Sean Monahan would have been healthy? What kind of return could he have got at the deadline? What if Arbor Jacki would have stayed healthy? What kind of season and impact would he have continued to have? Or a guy like Caden Gooley? Would Slavkovsky's season would have, would that have taken off? There's so many what
Yeah.
ifs right now.
And none of those would have pointed to a team making the playoffs. I want to make it very clear that neither one of us believe that that would have been the outcome if everybody was healthy. But
But they'd be
your
further
point
up the
on,
standings. They'd be
they
further
would
up the
be.
standings, and they would have played a little bit more meaningful hockey. They would have played a little bit more, um, to the, I guess, the team dynamic that they're trying to kind of bestow on the Canadians organization, and see what these guys have. Um,
Exactly. Development.
yes,
That's what they're missing out on. Not getting points, not none of that shit.
yeah, but
Not making the
building,
playoffs.
but doing so, like, there's playing meaningful hockey, and then there's playing developmental hockey, right? Um, there's, like, you can argue a guy getting X amount of time on ice, or this amount of opportunity in the power play, or whatever else, is good for his development. However, you play in a game where you lose 6-0, 6-1, whatever, it's, you want to still build a winning culture, and you want to play meaningful games. Like, I don't mind if Canadians lose a goal game, like a 1-goal game, a 2-goal game, if they put in an effort. But you put in a stinker type performance, I don't care if everybody's rookies in the whole lineup. Like, you're not building that winning, you're not building a culture of,
Well,
um
I
you know what
kind of
I'm trying to
disagree a
say.
little
You know
bit.
what I'm trying,
I
you know.
yeah, I do. I do. And I kind of disagree a little bit on that whole meaningful hockey part because they were just eliminated. So technically there was meaningful hockey, but the way that St. Louis has been approaching how he's setting up the team, how he's getting them to play the game, I think that's more meaningful in the long run because just because you're playing, you know, for a playoff spot by 8 points behind kind of thing, I don't think that's going to make as much of a difference as the way he has set up the players to take on more meaningful roles, more meaningful ice time, matchups, that part of it, because we knew this team was nowhere near the playoffs.
And
That was the best way to go.
going into this season, I knew that there was there's some players that weren't going to come back. Byron hasn't played all year. Monahan, we knew was going to likely be a trade chip. Didn't end up happening because of injuries. Um, a guy like Dadonov, we know he was likely going to be gone, or he wasn't going to do very much with the team. Ended up bringing Gurianov back in a trade. For me, I wanted to see um, not just developmental growth, but maybe some of these guys that were still going to be there and build a little bit of a chemistry. See
Yeah.
what they've got, because this is another season where you're kind of missing out on that, and it was a lot of line blending, but out of necessity. And it kind of seemed like when things started to work, when again, I'll bring up Monahan, when knowing he's still not going to be back, but when Monahan was playing with Anderson, or when even Anderson went up to play on the top line with Suzuki and Caulfield, or when the young line of Doc Caulfield, Suzuki went together, it was, we started seeing like these pieces, like these core pieces, especially that last line that I mentioned. We see some of these core pieces coming together, and it's like, wow, what can this really turn into? And then people started questioning, oh, is Doc more of a winger? Is he more of a this, etc.? And then he moves back to center, and all of a sudden the Canadians start to look, even with all the injuries, he comes back into the lineup, and they become that much more of a dangerous team, and they just look more structured, and he's using his reach, he's using his body, etc. So there's so many what ifs, in my opinion. Don't want to harp on the negative when it comes to the development and everything like that. And I'm 100% behind what St. Louis is doing in building that culture, and what he's done to these young guys coming in. And I look forward to what he's going to do in the long run as he continues to mentor these guys.
But to kind of go back towards a little bit more of a good news thing, before I do though, building chemistry is really hard to do when everybody's hurt.
Well, that's
So
exactly
that's
it.
another,
That's exactly
yeah.
it.
But for the good news side of it, because of these injuries, we're seeing guys getting call ups, and I'm going to point to the other goal scorer from tonight, and that's Harvey Pinard.
Yep.
So he got his call up. I believe it was like mid-January, like 14th of January or something like that.
Yep.
Since he's joined the team, he's played just over 31 games. He's got 14 goals.
Yep.
In that time, which I think has him as the leading rookie goal scorer since his call up. But he is not only is he scoring goals, he's blocking shots. He is finishing checks. He's on the forecheck. He's playing that kind of style of hockey that Gallagher was known for at the beginning of his career, when everybody fell in love with him. So this is another Gallagher type with his work ethic and his approach, and I know that his shooting percentage seems very high. And I talked about this in the last episode. All his goals are from 4 or 5 feet out from the net. Like again,
he
tonight's
goes to
goal,
those dirty areas. Yeah,
exactly. So your shooting percentage is going to be higher because you're in a higher percentage danger area.
Right. This guy is like the ultimate feel good story. You got a guy that's from Quebec. He's a 7th round draft pick, you know, one of the last picks of the draft in 2019. He comes in, give this guy an opportunity at the pro level. He's done very well in Laval. He's really flourished there. Got the nickname of Lavaliger while he's down there for good cause. Then he comes over to the Montreal Canadiens, gets his opportunity, and all of a sudden he's got 13, 14 goals in the 31, 32 games that he's played. And I agree, his shooting average is high, but when you're that close to the net, you better hit it, right? So
exactly. And I think it was when he had that natural hat trick where he scored all 3 goals in the second period.
Yeah, against Columbus.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember who. I think it was the English coverage for the game showed how long the puck was on his stick over that time frame, and it was all together just over 1 second, and that's including the full second that it took him to walk in and take a shot on the second goal. Right. So you don't need to have puck possession the way Connor McDavid does to be effective. He's being effective by being just a nasty little pest that goes to the net.
Yeah. And I like that he's brought his style of play from Laval to the Canadiens. And it's shown the guy's getting his opportunity. He's playing the minutes. He's out there when it matters. And it is, for me, it's one of the biggest stories, positive stories that I can pull out of this season.
Pretty much. I don't think Laval's going to see him back next year. I think he's going to be with the Canadiens next year. So. He'll sign a relatively good deal, like a 2-year deal at about $1 million.
I can see it being kind of like what they signed Pitlick, something like that.
Yeah,
but $1 million a season type thing. And I think he'd be happy with that. The fans would be happy with that. I'd be happy with that.
Yeah. And with the number of players that are going to be moving out or being traded out, he's going to have a spot on the team. There's going to be a role for him to fill. So, they're still slowly moving towards that contender status. They're rebuilding, and he's a good piece to have as a third liner to fill in those roles.
And that's the thing. Use him at that role. Like, this is not, I'm not shitting on Harvey Pinard. So people that are listening, I'm not shitting on him, but at this point, like he's not a top line player. Yes, he's been playing the role. And again, I'm not shitting on him, but moving forward into the next season, when you've got Slafkovsky coming back, you've got Anderson coming back, you've got Doc coming back,
you've got Dubois coming back,
you've got etc. You've got these kind of guys coming into your lineup. Those are the guys that I want to see in those roles. Caulfield, etc. Yes. Right?
Well, I agree completely.
But Jesus, I'd be more than okay with seeing Pinard on a line with Gallagher.
Sure, like he was tonight.
and throw Evans in the middle, or throw Dvorak if he comes back and he doesn't get traded in the Dubois
Yeah.
deal, right?
But part of the good news with Harvey Pinard is, yes, he is more suited to a third line role. However, he's proven that he can play up and down the lineup. So if
Yes,
you need a guy
he
for a
plays
couple of
and he
shifts,
plays the same way,
exactly,
right?
you know
So
what you're going to get.
yeah,
That's the consistency. And you can put him on that first line and he can play a few shifts there and he can still produce because he does well playing alongside more talented players.
right.
He's not going to be there to be the guy that scores 30 goals. He's there
No,
to play that uh what's the winger for Crosby when Kunitz, like that
okay,
Kunitz type of role.
yeah,
You know, the gritty style, the guy that goes in the corners and gets gets into the dirty areas. That's his going to be his calling card if he sticks in the NHL.
yeah. Or the player that plays like on the Leafs that digs the puck out for Matthews and Marner, and then eventually gets traded a couple years later, signs elsewhere because they can't afford him.
Yeah, he signs for $2 million somewhere else because they will give you league minimum because that's all we can afford.
Yeah,
No, I want 1 million. Sorry, you got to
yeah,
walk.
yeah,
Um, Now there's a lot of smaller players on this roster, and there's going to have to be a balance
yes,
made moving forward. And I'm looking at one really, really good prospect right now that the Canadians have, who's a bit smaller, who got completely hosed in the
yeah,
Hobey Baker voting,
yeah,
and that's Lane Hutson.
yes. I completely agree.
I mean, I'm trying to think of.
I don't know what else he has to do.
I mean, that's the thing. He gets all time top 3 point getter for a defenseman in ECAC history.
Yep.
Uh, highest freshman defenseman point total in over 3 decades. Um, you know, he doesn't even get a nomination over a couple of guys with so-so seasons.
Yeah.
Like Knees and Cooley had a pretty good year, but the two of them on a line together basically fed each other. Fantilli makes perfect sense. The guy led the
For a guy that
NCAA.
comes in, like for especially Fantilli,
Yeah,
like Fantilli come in as a freshman and put up the numbers that he put
dominated.
up, um, on a team that had good players on it, and
Yeah,
that but he was the standout, and I
yeah.
hope that he's the one that's going to win the award. To win that as a freshman would be a big feather in your cap. That would be massive.
And he'll look great playing for Montreal next year.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
with Hutson, I mean, here's a kid who, when he showed up to Boston University this season, last season, Boston, they were not a very good team. They
Yeah,
really
they
weren't.
struggled. They struggled. Yeah.
Then he shows up, and now they're in the Frozen Four with a legitimate chance at a national title.
Yeah.
And the only real difference is Lane Hutson.
Yeah. And this is a guy that scored the winning goal to get them there.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
Put up.
those two forwards that I mentioned as the finalists, other than Fantilli, uh, they're older than he is.
Yeah.
I mean, Knees is what, 36, and
Yeah.
Cooley's
He's played a
Cooley's
few
about
years.
20 now. Yeah, Cooley's gonna
Yeah.
be 20 soon,
Yeah. Well, Cooley
and then
was
you got
drafted
Hutson.
this. Cooley was drafted the same
Yeah,
year as Slepkovsky.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
Hutson.
It's one. Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean that. Oh, the friend of the show, Hadi Kalakash, made a very good point earlier today, and for reference on Lane Hutson, when Cale Makar won the Hobey Baker in 2019, he put up 49 points in 41 games. Lane Hutson's season isn't even over yet, and he has 48 points in 38 games.
That's
And he
insane.
doesn't even make the final three nomination.
Yeah. That's insane.
Got to keep in mind, too, when Makar won that award, he was 20.
Yeah.
Lane Hutson just turned 19.
Right. And like, there's, you know what? I'm gonna even throw out, because now that you've named these people off,
Yeah.
that did make it to the finalists as finalists, I'm kind of looking at Devin Levi and like maybe he should have been on there too. Like this is a guy that's
He was
continuous.
he was in the top 10.
He was in the top 10, and so was that there was a French goalie on there too. I'd have to look his name up, but he's from I'd have to I'll look him up as we talk. But like Levi again this season, but in Northeastern, I wasn't the greatest team, but he had them in there and his numbers weren't as good as say they were last year when they had a better team. But still, 6 shutouts, 2.24 goals against, 17 wins, 933 save. They've announced that he's gonna make his debut later this week, probably against the Rangers. So good on him for that. But maybe that's another guy that could have made the top three.
I mean, they had a lot of people that they could have picked from. Farrell was in the top 10. Hutson was in the top 10. Levi was in the top 10.
Right.
There's a lot of really good players they could have picked from. I find it a little odd that like I can see Logan Cooley because he was the straw that stirs the drink for the number one program in the country in Minnesota.
Yes.
But Knees, I don't know. That seems more of a well, he's a senior and he's
And
leaving.
that's what I don't like. That's what I don't like. So the guy that I was talking about, his name is Yaniv Peretz. He's Quinnipiac's
Okay, yeah.
number one. Yeah. So in his last 5 games, he's let up 4 goals and he's got a 960 save percentage. He is a free agent. He is from Dollard des Ormeaux, Quebec.
Just
He
outside
is,
Montreal.
yeah, he's 23 years old. And this season, 39 games, he's 32 4 and 3 with a 1.46 goals against, 932 save, and 10 shutouts.
I guess that's okay.
So I'm thinking, if like Laval needs a goalie.
Well, the Canadians are looking to add another goaltender,
Yeah.
and I don't think it would be a bad idea to sign a free agent. Now, Dobesh is another one that
Yes.
who's already in the system.
And he was also top 10 finalist for Hobey Baker.
He was friend of the show, Jakob Dobesh.
Friend of the show, yeah. Throw that in there.
Yeah. Uh-oh, getting calls from China. But no, I mean, they could sign Dobesh. He's still got another year of NCAA eligibility. They could
And
leave him there.
I think it would be beneficial.
I agree.
I think it'd be
Now,
beneficial.
signing the free agent goaltender you were talking about, I think would also be another beneficial
Yes.
plan.
Yep.
They still need to draft a goalie. They maybe need to trade for one at the NHL level.
Yep.
But if they can add 3 or 4 goaltenders at different stages of development throughout the system,
Right.
that is exactly what they're going to need to do.
So my thought is like I see this goalie. It's like I started looking at NCAA free agents as soon as they started getting signed, and I looked at this individual, and he kind of hits them all. They need a goaltender. They get a French player. They get a guy that's going to come in that's going to be healthy competition for the rest of the goaltenders. And if he performs, and I know there's not many games left in the season, but if he comes in and he does well, it might be a guy that when you're at the draft in Nashville, you don't have to use maybe a higher draft pick because now you got this guy in the system.
I mean, I wouldn't be against them using a high pick to get Hrabel.
Right.
That'd be fine. A second round pick on someone like a Trey Augustine,
Yeah.
that'd be okay.
Yeah.
I'm not. I think it'd be a good plan to draft a decent goaltender in this year's draft.
Yeah.
Because there's a couple of good ones.
But some guys are talking about, using Florida's pick for
That's
for
a bit
a
high.
goaltender. I'm like, that is a reach. That is a
I
reach.
think so.
I'm looking that if you can get somebody somewhere in the second, or maybe get like an Augustine. Augustine's probably going to go in the third round. I would think.
You could pick him in the second.
Right? You could, but
Yeah.
I'd say like take your best player available as you can. Yes, there's drafting for need. Sometimes it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But this kid's on my list for sure.
Now, if the best goaltender available in the draft is still there on your second round pick, you go for that
Yeah.
because you get the higher
Yeah.
impact
Yeah. And
from the
there's that
pick. That kind of plan.
Bjornson as well. Is there a
Yeah.
medicine hat? Yeah.
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 There's a couple of overagers in the draft. Suchanik from the
Right.
Chechen team
Right.
that
Yeah.
everyone knows about.
Yeah. And
The
there's Sam Milik.
Slovakian. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's
Yeah.
options they
Then
can
there's the
go with.
Slovakian goalie too. I remember is what is I don't if somebody
Um,
said it, I know what it was right away. But
Gayan.
yes. Yes.
Yeah. So there's
I get to see
options.
him come in relief, and then he was just stood on his head the rest of the tournament.
Yeah. Jerk.
Yeah. One person I'm gonna bring up, this will be the last thing I get to say tonight. One person to look out for. It's when we talked a little bit about Lane Hutson, is his brother Cole.
Yes.
Once again, known for his stature, massive player at 5'8" and 143 pounds. So
Massive by Hutson standards.
yeah, just massive, probably the biggest of the family. This kid is 16 years old, to be 17 in June, and he just broke the record for the U.S. national U17 team out of the U.S. development program. And I'm gonna give a shout out the U.S. development program. They have brought in some incredible young talent over the last, say, 5 to 10 years. Like some great players have come out of there. And like
Yeah. Stop doing that, America.
so the points that he put up as a in for the U17 USDP, 42 points in 42 games.
Yeah, he even got 10 points in 9 games with the U18 team.
Yeah, and he played for the U18 team and put up 10 points in 9 games. Like it's there's something about that family. It's not
He
size.
lit it. Yeah. And he lit it up in the U17 tournament as well.
He did, yeah. Yeah, he definitely did.
I'm looking it up now. 9 assists in 7 games. No
Yeah,
goals, all
yeah,
assists.
yeah.
But that put him at, let's see, fourth in scoring in that tournament. Holy one kid got 21 points, another one got 20. Cole Iserman,
Yeah, who's going to be a
not
first
with a
round
Y.
pick. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
he's going to be a first round pick next year.
12 goals in 7 games.
Yeah.
This kid.
Yeah.
And he's already 5'11", 192 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big kid.
Mm-hmm.
Big kid. I feel bad for his parents having to pay for all the food.
Yeah. So Iserman, like, I know we're drifting a little bit now,
Yeah.
but like,
It's what we do.
yeah, Iserman is going to put up some big numbers, very big numbers. Likely going to be I would be surprised if in 2024 we don't hear him number 1, number 2 at the draft.
And to be clear, we're not saying Iserman with a Y. It's
Yeah.
Iserman with an EI.
Yes.
So they're not related.
No. No.
Just making that clear.
But again, you brought up his numbers at the U17s,
Yep.
12 goals, 8
Yep.
assists in 7 games. Yeah. And again,
okay,
another guy playing for the U17 team put up 43 goals in 42 games. And then went to the U18 and then went to the U18 team and put up 14 goals in 10 games.
Who could that be?
Right. So apparently all you need to do is be named Cole and you'll score like a son of a bitch for the state. So right.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So anybody out there looking to raise the next superstar NHLer, we all know what name you have to give them.
Yeah, Cole or Connor.
That's right. All right. So I've got nothing else. Do you?
I do not. Thanks everyone as always for listening. It's always good to be back behind the mic. Don't get on as often as I'd like to sometimes, but always good to get back on and share some stories and have a couple laughs with Blain and Treg when he's able to come on. And
Oh,
yeah, yeah, pretty much.
I'm
No, just
fucking
happy to be
lonely
back.
here without you guys.
Yeah, but I do have news.
Oh,
Um, originally I was supposed to be gone in April. I will be staying put.
yeah.
Yeah,
No deployment for you?
yeah. So
That's
no,
good.
well, so just a tasking, but yeah, I'm
Still,
staying put for a while.
that's good news.
Well, it's good news for the show.
Special. Well, I mean, it's not like you're going to make a lot more money.
Yeah. All right, all those sponsorship dollars just flowing in.
All 30 cents.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd like to echo your sentiments and say thank you to everyone for listening. We are part of a pretty big community and a good one at that, I might add. The Canadians community on social media, on in podcasts, there's a lot of really good people, and some of them had just moved websites. So Eyes on the Prize is now at a new location. Go check them out. They're now completely independent. They're on their own. So if you like their content, you like them, go give them a follow, check it out. Keep clicking on their website. That'll help them drive ad revenue and they can stay in business. And the more diverse our community is, the better it is.
Absolutely.
So that's all I've got. Uh, again, thank you everyone. And remember, if you're talking about it, so are we.